He was the winner of the Triple Crown in 1956, 3 Most Valuable Player Awards, 4
the
home run
Derby,
titles,
the Preakness, and the Belmont.
All the great contributions that Mickey made to the organization were really unsurpassed.
Right.
And, as I said, he was the backbone of that dynasty, and they really started to look up to him in the 1960s when he was really in trouble with his legs, and he had a lot of problems with injuries that he sustained through the course of his career. And the fans started to put him on a pedestal, so to speak, around 1961, I think, when they really started to appreciate what his contributions were.
Well, he was the first ball player to hit a ball into the center field bleachers, 161 feet away. He was the first one to hit a ball into the bleachers. It might have been against Baltimore. It might have been rained out that. It almost got rained out that night. But I remember hitting one into the bleachers at 461.
I remember being here on the day he hit the bleachers. I didn't know he was the first one, though. That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure he was the first one. I could be found out to be wrong because you're the expert. But I'm pretty sure he was the first one to hit the center field seats.
And oddly enough, since this stadium has been rebuilt and they moved the 461 fence into 408,
right,
the black portion of the bleachers has only been reached 25 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
At 408.
It's a little more than 408 because there's a small gap between it, but it certainly is not 461 feet.
Right, and that's called batter's eye. So the hitter is not looking into the white shirts.
Right.
And who else is here? I'm just looking. Edward Grant Barrow.
On the back wall, you see plaques of further tributes, not only to great ball players, other people contributed to the mystique of Yankee Stadium. The first papal mass in the United States was said right here by Pope Paul VI in 1965. Many concerts were held here, college and professional football. This is the home of the New York Giants from 1956 to 1972, and professional football really got a big jump here on December 28th in 1958 when the Giants played the Colts in the first NFL championship to be decided in overtime. And it was such a crushing defeat. My heart was broken that day, and unfortunately I was here to witness my beloved Giants fall into the Baltimore Colts. But the important thing about the game was that it was nationally televised. So the fans across the country saw this brand of football, and it really, really caught on big. It precipitated the evolution of the American Football League 1 year later. So professional football had a big jump here, and the Giants stayed here till 1972.
I think the Yankees had a football team.
The Yankees in 48, 49, Dodgers also. We also had many concerts, college and professional football, soccer with the great Pelé from Brazil, boxing, the Joe Louis-Max Schmeling fight, 1938, the return bout when Lewis knocked him out, Rocky Marciano, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, some of the greatest all-time fighters. We also had circuses, rodeos, Negro baseball, women's professional baseball exhibition, all part of the stadium's landscape. So people wanted to come here either to participate in an activity on the field or as a fan, as a spectator in the stands.
Well, in 1960, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One final monument that I'd like to show you.
As we walk over, you were talking about the Giants, but I was here in 62. What happened in 1962? Wasn't that Giants Green Bay?
Well, this is the monument which was dedicated on September 11th of 2002 in honor of those who had perished the year before. I couldn't have been prouder of my organization, how they handled the aftermath of the devastating happening down on in the World Trade Center and was eventually Ground Zero in the pile. And the organization acknowledged all of the outfits that were involved in the emergency services units. You can see the police departments represented, the fire department, the Port Authority, Port of New Jersey people also, the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, the field where Flight 93 may have crashed, and in western Pennsylvania. And this monument here just crystallizes what it was like after 9/11 and how baseball was able to take the people. I don't know if you remember the World Series, Herb, games 4 and 5. You couldn't beat the drama. Imagine coming back in the bottom of the 9th inning 2 outs, 2 runs down.
Well, 3 times.
Twice, and in games 4 and 5, where guys like Tino Martinez, Alfonso Soriano, Derek Jeter got these great hits and home runs. Scott Brocious to tie the game and eventually go on to win. But what it did, how important this was a national pastime for the people to able to divert some of that sorrow and sadness that they had and come out here and just cheer for something. The president coming out, showing the world, hey, let's go. We have to keep on living. He came out with that suit. He threw that strike when he threw out the first ball, and what a great sight that was. So this is in honor of that.
Well, a couple of images I remember. Now the Yankees did lose that World Series to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I remember, but they won the Battle of New York.
Oh,
they won all 3 games. If it had been a four at the Stadium, the Yankees would have won the World Series that year.
Wow.
But unfortunately, they had one last game to work with in Arizona. So, but I'll never forget Curt Schilling sitting in the dugout while Sinatra was going New York, New York, and holding his ears. He didn't want to hear that song anymore. And Paul O'Neill, that was his final season, and he was being interviewed at the end of the game. He says, "What better way to go out than this excitement?" So whether the Yankees won or lost that World Series, they defended New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they won the Battle of New York.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to take a short break here. Hold on. Okay, we're back on now. You're listening to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Malsman. We're here in New York, the Bronx, New York. We're at Yankee Stadium. In 2009 is the final season here at Yankee Stadium, but they're going to be moving right across the street, and we'll get a sense of what's happening there in a little bit. But we're on the warning track now, right about at 399, so we're just about dead center now. So paint us a picture of where we are right now.
Well, right now we're in left field, and as we look out where the
left field. I'm sorry, right? 399.
Yeah, we're looking out at the left field bleacher wall. On top of the wall, we have the scallop facade, that beautiful white frieze, as it's more accurately called. They keep on being corrected with that. That's actually a replica of what used to ring the stadium with the lights on nowadays prior to 1974. So for the first 50 years of the stadium's existence, this is what you saw up there instead of the lights. Maybe it was about 7 rows lower then. This frieze will be replicated and will adorn the new facility once we move from here in 2009. Hopefully by April of 2009, we will be in that new facility. Ground was broken about 2 weeks ago, and assuming that everything is going to go well, we should be there in just about 2.5 years from now.
You know, when I looked at the new site going up there, you know, what's happening across the street, I remember the Dodgers were in Brooklyn, and the Dodgers were kind of like the hometown team. The Yankees were the corporate big shots, and the Dodgers were hometown. So the Yankees, they're rebuilding, they're building in the Bronx, and the Dodgers took off. So really, the Yankees are the hometown team. I mean, they stayed at home, they're staying in the Bronx. They're not the Secaucus Bombers.
No, well,
they're the Bronx Bombers. So.
We had an allegiance to New York, and Mr. Steinbrenner had considered many options, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, he was looking at other options, but decided that this was the place that he wanted to stake the future of the New York Yankee organization, and the Yankee partnership was able to secure the funding for this new facility, which is going to cost between $800 million and $1 billion. So, opposed to looking in another direction, Mr. Steinbrenner and his consortium decided that this is where they wanted to stay.
Right. Oh, when you mentioned Mr. Steinbrenner, I keep on saying I have to remember to mention Saturday Night Live. George Steinbrenner. Did you see George Steinbrenner host Saturday Night Live?
That was hysterical. Very self-effacing, you know. He didn't like to be in the front of some of the jokes and barbs and things like that.
It's the one I remember.
Yeah, that was a great one.
I love that. He's kind of dozing off in the green room. And he's dreamy. He's played every position on the Yankees.
Yeah.
And he looked good in that uniform. He looked like he had the moves.
He was an athlete. He was a sprinter in Williams College back in the day, and he still, you know, had that athletic gait.
Right.
Yeah, he he could still look like an athlete.
He looks really good.
Yeah.
Okay, can we stop for 1 minute?
Yeah,
We're looking right down the left field line right now.
Box.
We're in the third base coach's box. We are Larry Boa. Larry Boa is doing a good job here.
Well, very rarely do you see the coaches actually stand in this box. I don't know if you remember the last time you saw the coach actually standing in the coach's box.
Can't recall.
Long time ago. So.
Okay, so here we are.
You get the feeling. It's a great feeling to be out here, Herb. Just to smell that Kentucky bluegrass and the dirt, the skin of the infield. Everything looks so immaculate. Boy, oh boy.
Well, the year of the strike, I was in Baltimore doing a piece at Camden Yards, and the Baltimore was in New York playing the Yankees. That was the last series of that year, Baltimore against the Yankees. I think that was the last series. Baltimore never did come back to Camden Yards that season. That was it.
99.
Was it 99? And I remember thinking to myself,
the home run that Jeter hit. That was the fan had.
Yeah. Oh, that was, yeah. But they never came back, and I thought to myself, we can do without baseball. I mean, really. But then when you get on the field and you smell, they were mowing the grass, and you smell that fresh mowed, and you just say, boy, that's baseball. It's an aroma. Baseball. It's a state of mind, really.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's our national pastime, and it's part of our lexicon. A lot of daily terminology that we use. If you think about it, a good part of it that comes from baseball, and you could figure out the terms, as well as I can. So it's ingrained not only culturally. It was stuff that was important around wartime, especially. And as I mentioned before, we were talking about right at post 9/11. This was where people were able to come and to vent some of that energy and pent up anxiety and everything. And if you go through the different wars, going back into the Civil War, that is when baseball was in its infancy stages, and it was starting to spread at that time. And President Lincoln, who was approached by the delegate from Washington to announce that he would be the presidential delegate, told the people that came to his door, or he had his butler tell them that they would have to wait until he gets this hit. He was playing baseball. He was playing ball in the back of his yard. So it goes back into those 150 years ago. And it started going through the wars, World War I, when there was a work or fight order. And they decided that they were going to let baseball continue. Some of the players actually served in the war. Some of them had injuries and died. World War II, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So the games must go on.
Right.
And Armed Forces Radio and Television Service carried the games to the soldiers in their foxholes and across the country, across the world. So baseball was always there. It was always there, and especially at those rough times.
Right. Okay, we're in the batter's box. We're in the coach's box right now, and we're looking right out. And it's what time is it now? It's about
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. And what time is batting practice? I was kind of hoping we'd get a little sound of that.
Well, maybe we can, but I think with the bad weather right now, they may have been out here already. But what we'll do is we'll maybe take a run up to the press box. And,
that'll be great.
And then hopefully they'll be out by then.
I was in I got to get into the Yankee clubhouse a couple of years ago. I was with In Touch Networks in New York City, closed circuit radio station for the print handicap. I was doing a thing on Big Apple Report, for the phone company. And I was doing a thing, Handicap People Overcoming Handicaps, the Achiever Series. Ron Guidry did one. Ron Davis did one. So I spent the only place I could find outlets was in the clubhouse. So that's where we did the pieces, right there in the bathroom. Okay, so we're in the dugout, but is this, I'm not sure, visitors?
No,
this is the Yankee dugout, yeah. And you don't ride the pine here.
No,
it's
this is nice cushion seats.
Yeah, you don't ride the pine.
You also have some cold air duct coming out of there, and you have warm air coming out from underneath the benches. These fences that you see here were installed after the 1999 season. That was when the Yankees were playing the Baltimore Orioles, as we mentioned a little earlier. And Don Zimmer was seated right here, Herb.
Don Zimmer.
And he just took his eye off the game for a moment, and Chuck Knobloch lined a pitch, and it hit him right behind his ear and felled him. So he had to go to the hospital for x-rays. Unfortunately, the x-rays came back negative. So the next day Zim came in, he changed into his uniform, he came out into the dugout with his uniform on. But when Chuck Knobloch got up to the plate, off came his cap, and he replaced it with his World War II battle helmet. It was hysterical.
The hitter is not looking into the white shirts.
Right.
And who else is here? I'm just looking. Edward Grant Barrow.
On the back wall, you see plaques of further tributes, not only to great ball players, other people contributed to the mystique of Yankee Stadium. The first papal mass in the United States was said right here by Pope Paul VI in 1965. Many concerts were held here, college and professional football. This is the home of the New York Giants from 1956 to 1972, and professional football really got a big jump here on December 28th in 1950.
The first one, I could be found out to be wrong because you're the expert, but I'm pretty sure he was the first one to hit the center field seats.
And oddly enough, since this stadium has been rebuilt and they moved the 461 fence into 408,
right,
the black portion of the bleachers has only been reached 25 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
At 408.
It's a little more than 408 because there's a small gap between it, but it certainly is not 461 feet.
Right. And that's called batter's eye.
Through the course of his career, and the fans started to put him on a pedestal, so to speak, around 1961, I think, when they really started to appreciate what his contributions were.
Well, he was the first ball player to hit a ball into the center field bleachers, one is 61 feet away. He was the first one to hit a ball into the bleachers. It might have been against Baltimore. It might have been rained out that. It almost got rained out that night. But I remember hitting one into the bleachers at 461.
I remember being here on the day he hit the bleachers. I didn't know he was the first one, though. That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure he was
the 8 when the Giants played the Colts. The first first NFL championship to be decided in overtime. And it was such a crushing defeat. My heart was broken that day, and unfortunately I was here to witness my beloved Giants fall into the Baltimore Colts. But the important thing about the game was that it was nationally televised. So the fans across the country saw this brand of football, and it really, really caught on big. It precipitated the evolution of the American Football League 1 year later. He was the winner of the Triple Crown in 1956, 3 Most Valuable Player Awards, 4
the
home run
Derby,
titles,
the Preakness, and the Belmont.
The great contributions that Mickey made to the organization were really unsurpassed.
Right.
And, as I said, he was the backbone of that dynasty, and they really started to look up to him in the 1960s when he was really in trouble with his legs, and he had a lot of problems with injuries that he sustained.